You cannot have an open debate about the history, the background, and the behavior of Israel because you're called anti-Semitic, which is a complete misnomer. It means anti-Arab, really, because it's a language group called the Semitic languages, overwhelmingly Arabic. And even with this Balfour Declaration, opposition and other voices systematically have to be silenced. I mean, they don't know any other way. And I just wonder, when you have such an obsession with silencing criticism of any kind of Israel, what they've got to hide. That's a rhetorical question, by the way. And so we've had this story in the run-up to this Balfour 100th anniversary. Transport for London bans ads displaying Palestinian objections to Balfour Declaration. Adverts highlighting Palestinian objections to the Balfour Declaration of 1917, when Britain promised to establish a Jewish national home in Palestine, have been blocked by Transport for London on the grounds that the issue is politically controversial. Nonsense. It's censorship. What you call controversial, others rightly call open debate and the right to an opinion. Hello and welcome to the David Icke videocast. Well, it's been the week that we've been told we should celebrate the Balfour Declaration, the 100th anniversary of the declaration by the British government that started the process that led to eventually the establishment of the State of Israel. But maybe there's a little bit more to know about the background to that pivotal point in the establishment of Israel in the land of Palestine. Now, when you first hear that the British Foreign Secretary, Lord Balfour, made a declaration, the Balfour Declaration, it has the feel of standing up in Parliament and making a declaration that the British government supports a Jewish homeland in what is now Israel and Palestine. But it wasn't like that. The Balfour Declaration, of course, was a letter. And who the letter was sent to is extremely relevant to the whole story. The House of Rothschild has been central to the creation, establishment of Israel and for the creation of the modern Zionist movement. And this is the declaration from Lord Balfour, and it's written to Lord Rothschild. No coincidence. It says, "I have much pleasure in conveying to you on behalf of His Majesty's government the following declaration of sympathy with Jewish Zionist aspirations, which has been submitted to and approved by the Cabinet." Note it says Jewish Zionist aspirations because there is this myth that Jewish people and Zionism are interchangeable. It's not true. There are many Jewish people that don't support Zionism. Zionism is not a race, if you like. It is a political philosophy and an ideology, which, like I say, in modern times has been driven by the House of Rothschild. And the letter goes on to say, His Majesty's government view with favour the establishment in Palestine of a national home for the Jewish people and will use their best endeavours to facilitate the achievement of this object. And this next bit is a complete joke. it being clearly understood that nothing shall be done which may prejudice the civil and religious rights of existing non-Jewish communities in Palestine or the rights and political status enjoyed by Jews in any other country. I should be grateful if you would bring this declaration to the knowledge of the Zionist Federation, completely controlled by the House of Rothschild. Now, we are being asked, and indeed the British government through Theresa May is doing so, to celebrate this declaration from the British government that started the process that led to Israel, but celebrate it on the basis of one of its apparently key tenets has been completely and utterly ignored. That being, it's clearly understood that nothing shall be done which may prejudice the civil and religious rights of existing non-Jewish communities in Palestine. Now, that has clearly happened on a monumental scale, and it's happening hour by hour by hour. So this is completely fraudulent in the sense that the deal was not kept by the treatment of Palestinians. Palestinians who were something like 90% of the population of that land. And here you have a British government in its stunning and predictable arrogance that can basically hand someone else's country to an outside group without even consulting the vastly greater population, 90% in Palestine, about giving their country away to someone else. Because that's what's happened. This whole nonsense about not prejudicing the rights of the population of Palestine at the time not only hasn't happened, it was never even planned to happen. But let's look at this declaration and the communication between Balfour and Rothschild from another perspective. Because, you know, as I have been going on and on and on about decade after decade, this world is not controlled and dictated by people in the seen. It's in the unseen that the real decisions are made, and the manipulation goes on that manipulates and dictates the direction of the world that we see. So there was a connection, a major connection, between Balfour and the recipient of the letter, Rothschild, and it's something called the Round Table Secret Society based in Britain. Now, this was created by the Rothschilds in the latter part of the 19th century, and its first head was Cecil Rhodes. Cecil Rhodes being the man who was an agent of the Rothschilds and plundered southern Africa and allowed the British Empire to take over southern Africa on behalf of the Rothschilds and to, of course, steal their resources, the diamonds and the gold, etc., and set the local population, the enslaved population of southern Africa, to work in the gold mines and the diamond mines on behalf of the Rothschilds via Cecil Rhodes. So he was a nice man, Cecil Rhodes, and he was the first head of this Round Table Secret Society. When he died, just after the turn of the 20th century, he was replaced as head of the Round Table by a guy called Lord Alfred Milner. He was a businessman. He was a colonial administrator, big-time British colonialist, and he was a member of the British War Cabinet in World War I. And he headed the Round Table as an agent of the Rothschilds at the time of the Balfour Declaration. And as I've explained in my books, this is one of them going back to 1994, and The Truth Shall Set You Free. I describe all this that I'm talking about now in detail and what actually happened. And this round table secret society went on to create other fronts for manipulation, like the Council on Foreign Relations in the United States, another one called the Trilateral Commission, the Bilderberg Group, and the Club of Rome, which was created in the 60s specifically to exploit the environment to justify the transformation of global society, hence the global warming hoax. That's one of the major ways this was played out on the population. And so here we have the secret society connection between the sender and the receiver of the Balfour Declaration, because the round table was broken up into two groups. There was an inner group, like an inner circle, that knew the big picture, and there was an outer group, the circle of friends, that knew far less. This is the compartmentalized way that these secret societies operate. Well, it just so happens that Lord Balfour was an inner circle elite member of the Round Table Secret Society. And so the Balfour Declaration was actually a letter from an inner circle elite member of a secret society to Lord Rothschild, who was funding and driving and controlling the secret society and the House of Rothschild in general, not just him. This is what history doesn't tell you. But there was a guy called Carroll Quigley. He was a historian and a professor at Georgetown University. Actually, he taught Bill Clinton. And he was an insider, and he spilled the beans on all this. I've read his books a long time ago now. One's called Tragedy and Hope, and the other one's called The Anglo-American Establishment. And in these two books, he puts the 20th century into a totally different light, including the Balfour Declaration. Now, what happened next, the Balfour Declaration in November 1917, 2 years later, we had the Versailles Peace Conference at the end of the First World War. This is when the leaders of the victorious countries, led by Britain, America, they met at Versailles in France to decide what would happen as a result of the war, what would happen to Germany. And they were advised, as I detail in that book, these leaders were advised by an array of people who were just agents and operatives for the House of Rothschild. Alfred Milner of the Round Table was among them. And they did two things relevant to this. First of all, they agreed, like the British government, that they would support a Jewish homeland in Palestine. And secondly, they made decisions about reparations for Germany as a result of the First World War that was so undeliverable, they were so impossible to meet, that Germany fell into total economic chaos and catastrophe. And that led directly to the political environment that allowed Hitler and the Nazis to come to power and do what they did in Nazi Germany, not least to Jewish people and others too. So that's some of the background to the Balfour Declaration that you won't read in many other places. And indeed, that's a kind of common theme here. you cannot have an open debate about the history, the background, and the behavior of Israel because you're called anti-Semitic, which is a complete misnomer. It means anti-Arab, really, because it's a language group called the Semitic languages, overwhelmingly Arabic. And even with this Balfour Declaration, opposition and other voices systematically have to be silenced. I mean, they don't know any other way. And I just wonder, when you have such an obsession with silencing criticism of any kind of Israel, what they've got to hide. That's a rhetorical question, by the way. And so we've had this story in the run-up to this Balfour 100th anniversary. Transport for London bans ads displaying Palestinian objections to Balfour Declaration. Adverts highlighting Palestinian objections to the Balfour Declaration of 1917, when Britain promised to establish a Jewish national home in Palestine, have been blocked by Transport for London on the grounds that the issue is politically controversial. Nonsense. It's censorship. What you call controversial, others rightly call open debate and the right to an opinion. So, we've had this dinner of celebration this week when Benjamin Netanyahu, Prime Minister of Israel, headed for London to have this celebratory Balfour Declaration dinner with Theresa May, the British Prime Minister. And they couldn't even leave it alone then. This is Theresa May speaking at the dinner. There is today a new and pernicious form of anti-Semitism which uses criticism of the actions of the Israel government as a despicable justification for questioning the very right of Israel to exist. This is abhorrent and we will not stand for it. Oh, Macron in France, the Rothschild president of France, used to work for him, has said pretty much the same. So what we're seeing is that history is being distorted, present day happenings are being distorted and being suppressed by the increasing, and my goodness me, it is increasing efforts to silence anyone with a different opinion to that of Israel, and also to claim that criticism of or questioning of a country, of a regime in a country, is somehow racist. It's not, of course, and it is another, of course, simply to justify censorship. So, we don't do censorship here. So let's have a look then at what we're supposed to be celebrating this week in this 100th anniversary of the Balfour Declaration. This is only a partial list, but you'll get the picture. We're being asked to celebrate, number one, the fact that the House of Rothschild, as part of a much greater global agenda, essentially created modern Zionism and thus set about creating, successfully, the State of Israel so it could manipulate and destabilize the Middle East ongoing, brackets, achieved. We're being asked to celebrate, number two, that the Rothschilds secured official support for the Balfour Declaration from the then powerful and very influential British government for a Jewish homeland in what is or was Palestine, and of course the Palestinians claim still is. And in doing so, they did not secure or even ask for the support against not just the opposition of the Arab people of Palestine to this, but also they didn't ask the support, and they certainly wouldn't have got it from most of them, of the Jewish minority in Palestine. At that point, before this declaration and all that followed, Arab people and the small minority of Jewish people in Palestine were getting on fine. They were living together, and it was one country, if you like, and they were just getting on. Everything was fine. The minority Jewish people in Palestine, or great amounts of them, didn't want this great influx from Europe that changed their lives as it dramatically changed the lives of the Palestinians they were living in harmony with. We're being asked to celebrate that T.E. Lawrence, who of course is better known because of the film as Lawrence of Arabia, a military intelligence agent for Britain, helped to con the Arabic people of Palestine into removing the Islamic Ottoman Empire based in Turkey, to remove their control of Palestine in what was called the Arab Revolt. This was in the latter years of the First World War. And the con was that Lawrence and the British, through him and others, said that if you support us, the British, in removing Ottoman Empire control from your land, you will get independence afterwards. The British government and their agent knew that that land was designated for someone else. So, the Arab Revolt removed the Ottoman Empire, and then, as the years unfolded, independence for Palestinians for doing that became domination by an outside force coming in from Europe, and the British knew that all along. You can trust the British just like you can trust American governments. Anything they say is true. Well, if you invert that, it's true.